Is that yours?
Ready?
Okay. Right, so we are back in our open session following our closed session to discuss an offer on real property. Just so that the record is clear, we did go into that closed session with the intent of discussing lots 6 and 7. We did start by discussing lots 6 and 7, ended up focusing our lots 8 and 9 was the intention. Discussion moved into lots 6 and 7, where I believe the council has reached an agreement on a purchase price. And at this point, I would ask a member of the council to make a motion to accept the offer that was discussed in closed session, including the amount, please.
I'll move to accept the offer of $34,000 for the two lots.
And those are lots, just so that the record is clear.
Lots 6 and 7.
Thank you. So there's a motion to accept an offer for lots 6 and 7 in the amount of $34,000, excuse me. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Brick. Any further discussion? Again, just want to welcome Mr. Tugas to town and looking forward to a new house going up and ongoing growth. Calling the question, then all those in favor of accepting the offer indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion carries. All right. Back on then to our regular agenda. We have the council and board member code of conduct expectations. There's no way to go around this. This is on the agenda because of things that were done at our joint planning board meeting, things that I could not see from where I was sitting, that went directly against my direction as the chair in order to be civil and respectful of the differing opinions in the room. And was I pissed off? The motion was originally put on for a sanction and a censure. And that doesn't mean silencing, but it's... I appreciate the apology that was in the newspaper. I think that was necessary. I think it addressed the issue appropriately, which is why I don't think that a censure is appropriate anymore. I appreciate Neil getting ahead of it and doing it. But it brought up the question of everything else that had happened. And there was a comment made during the open forum, I wish Ms. Westland were still here, with the neck slicing motion and how that's how all chickens should be treated. And it goes both ways, because at a joint planning meeting over at the Public Works Garage last December, Ms. Westland came in and directly said, oh look, I'm sitting next to the chicken hater, directly facilitating animosity between the two. And I'm sorry, but I expect those that we elect and those that are serving on our boards to act like adults. And the comments about chicken hating or finger slicing motions, come on, we're better than that, guys. Those of us on this council, those of us on our boards, what, over some birds? Is that what this is? So I sat down with Tarek and Jen last week, and we discussed whether or not a censure motion was appropriate, and I did tell Jen to take that off because I think the apology was heartfelt. I read it. Neil, to your credit, you did email me first thing after the meeting and apologized to me, or you texted, I don't remember. I had already sent out the emails before I saw your message. But I appreciate the apology, but it's something that's been on all of our boards. It happened on the police and fire board, it's happened on the planning board, it's happened in the council. So we have bylaws, we have a code of conduct in our bylaws. I expect this council to follow them, and I would ask that all of us at our various committee meetings, I'm assuming that we all agree that we bring the directive to our committees that we all act the same way. And regardless of whether those committees have had problems, I'm just going to ask that we all pass it along. Because we can have differing opinions. That's fine. but I gave the directive. Yeah, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I think the message has been received. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but again, it's not just the council. There are committee members. It's one of the reasons why we dissolved the police and fire board. But to come in and make accusations at a meeting of malfeasance and closed-door meetings, that is going to be insightful. It is going to be problematic. It's going to lead to animosity. But I think we need to hold ourselves to not fall into that and not engage in that at that level. So I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Otherwise, I'm done and I'll get off my soapbox now. All right. Moving along then, social media policy on page number 5. A little bit of history in this. Came up a while ago. I don't even remember the full context behind it, but I had called the League of Minnesota Cities about some social media posts, and they shared this policy with us as a full city policy on how various departments and things should maintain their own social media pages. Talks about rules on comment, deletion, and things like that. I know a couple of years ago there were some allegations that the city had deleted comments from a video. I talked to Kristen and she did not do it. Whoever the author was had deleted them. But this just makes it clear that we're not going to censor things unless there are very specific things, because I do, much like Ms. Westland said, I am a staunch advocate of the First Amendment, and that means the right to speak out against any of us for what we do. But this policy came from the league. It's a direct copy of what they sent us, with the exception of we put in the Painesville specific information. Policies and Procedures reviewed this, recommends that we do it. I think it's one of the things that will help as we have a couple of disjointed accounts now. Fire department, Paul has or had a Facebook at one time that I know you want to get up and going again or start anew, depending on what we can.
Start anew. We've never actually had one, I think.
Okay.
I think they used to have one.
I thought you said there was something out there and it was either inaccessible or lost. I couldn't remember the details, but yeah, start anew. So just something to guide that process. Policies Procedures does recommend this, and unless there's any further discussion, I would call for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve social media policy.
Right, there's a motion by Hertzberg as stated on the action sheet. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Thielen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right, Chief, on hiring a new SRO.
Excuse me. Thank you. So earlier this year, one of our SROs, Jerome Feigum, decided after many, many years of service that he wanted to and was going to retire, which leaves us with a vacancy within our school for the SRO position. I've spoken with our other SRO officer, Tony Lepeka. He's not interested in doing the full amount as a retired individual. He likes doing it on the part-time basis. I did speak with another gentleman. He used to work for Stearns County, who had left law enforcement and took on some other endeavors, but is interested in doing the SRO position. Now, we haven't officially posted for this position, and there may be others interested. So I'm asking that it's posted. We've got a couple months before school starts here. And we are going to need somebody to fill that void for us, just so that we can maintain our service. This is something that is part of the contract with the school district, and basically all the costs, with the exception of some administrative stuff, the psychological background, stuff like that, is paid for by the school district. So,
All right. Just disappointed the kids are going to miss Officer Bubblegum.
Yeah.
they will. They will.
Right. I think it makes sense to open it up. I'm glad that we have somebody potentially lined up, and I would be interested to see if we can get anybody else to apply. So, any further discussion? A motion would be in order.
I move to approve posting for a part-time school resource officer at grade 9. The step is dependent on experience, with the process continuing until a final recommendation can be made to council.
Right, there's a motion by Brick, as stated on the action sheet, to open up the process to hire an SRO. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Thielen. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right. I guess I get to give a verbal report. Budget and Finance had discussed a while ago doing some sort of like a text message campaign. Right now, we have Code Red to get out information on an emergency basis. We have the newsletter to get stuff out quarterly, but there's nothing for just sort of like the run-of-the-mill email blasts for things that might help inform the city. In that, I'm thinking, you know, I put in some examples in here, but when the compost site opens, the RV dump, I don't know, Ron, how many phone calls you field in the spring as to when the compost site's going to open, but I know it's usually all over social media, it's all over everything else, but I think it would just make sense for the city to have some sort of an email service where a limited number of individuals can just send out announcements and say, this is what's happening, something that's not an emergency, but something that's maybe a little more time sensitive or just sort of routine. We can use Code Red to send out these types of messages. I agree with the chief that we shouldn't, because then it starts to negate the emergency. Code Red is there for the emergencies. You want people to pay attention to those. These are the kinds of things where they're nice to know, but if it goes to somebody's spam box or if they just hit delete, it's not going to be the end of the world. Something that's not life or death, but would just be kind of nice to know. I looked at the costs. Basically, it's based off of how many users you have who are able to log in and how many people you have signed up. I don't think we need the expensive one. I was thinking the standard tier, which is 5 authorized users and 30,000 emails. The reason I came up with 5, myself, Tarek, Kristen, and then Ron and Paul. Those were the 5 people that I thought would be the authorized users. Otherwise, maybe myself, Tarek, and Kristen, and then any department head, Bill, Paul, Andy, can just go through Kristen to get things sent out. So that might be an option as well. That would just be the Essentials plan, which is a fair amount cheaper too. But again, I think having something out there where we can get out some more notices to people who want to sign up, they're not forced to, but they can. Something like that would maybe be helpful.
I'm wondering if we start with the essential, and if it's successful, you could upgrade?
We always could, yeah. It's only $26.50 a month, so it's a very nominal cost for the Essentials plan. Right, so.
I guess I'll make that a motion
Okay.
to go with the essential plan.
Can your motion include who might be an authorized user of it?
The 5 you named, correct?
So if we do 5, then we have to go to the standard one at 60. If we do the Essentials, I was thinking myself, Tarek, and Kristen.
Would that work?
Or do we just give Tarek the discretion to name the 3? Okay, so Neil's motion is to go with the Essentials plan and give Tarek the authority and discretion to name the 3 authorized users. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. I'll repeat the motion again for Kristen. Motion's by Hertzberg, seconded by Brick, to sign the city up for the Essentials MailChimp plan, authorizing the city administrator to use their discretion in assigning the authorized users to send out messages. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right, old business A. So our public forum period is closed, Barb. So we're just gonna keep moving on. So we have the hiring and then the unfortunate resignation of a part-time liquor store clerk. Talked to Jen about why we even need to have this on here, and it's so that all of the paperwork is complete, because bureaucrats need to be bureaucrats. So I'd ask for a motion to hire, and then we'll move on to the second motion as well.
Do we need to discuss it, or can we go straight to a motion?
No, I think that given this is personnel and what it is, we should move straight to a motion based on everything that's on the action sheet here.
Okay.
Speaks for itself.
Well, I will move to hire Mackenzie Husted as a part-time liquor store clerk at grade 1, step 1, $15.23 per hour, up to 32 hours per week.
Right, there's a motion by Brick, as stated on the action sheet, to hire Mackenzie Husted. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Hertzberg. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries. All right. Then to accept her resignation.
I'll move to accept the resignation of Mackenzie Husted as part-time liquor store clerk effective July 10th, 2023.
Motion by Brick, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hertzberg. Sorry, Paul, he beat you again. All right. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right. Going on then to the discussion and approval of ordinance number 43, third series. It's the ordinance that was taken up at our joint planning board meeting. We were all there, so I won't go through it. Jean's not here to give a report. Any comments by the council or any discussion on this?
There was a question, I'm just trying to find the page now, so at the meeting yesterday, they did question why we were only doing this zone and not both industrial zones, given that there's many businesses in that other industrial zone as well, and I wasn't on the planning board to discuss what led up to this, or, any of the zoning discussions, so I wasn't sure. I just wanted to put that question out there.
Yeah.
I assume if it comes up, it'll be a discussion, but,
So that's different zoning, correct?
Yeah, so the only area zoned I-2 in town right now is AMPI. And then there's a little sliver just to the east of it, right?
Fertilizer.
Cenex is I-2, that's what that one is? Okay. So AMPI has the height that they need. In our discussions with AMPI, they are looking at their options for expansion in the future, and that would include needing to come back for a variance if we didn't amend the ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of anybody else in an I-1 who would need to have a taller building.
and is I-1 all full at this point, or close to it?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything open in I-1 anymore.
What do you think, does that set us up for anything, Bill? I mean, is it, if we have to come back, if anybody in I-1 asks, is it complicated to come back and do it again, or?
Well, no, I mean, we've done this a couple times already now with
Yeah.
different zones where we've reconsidered height limitations, I guess. It's not particularly a problem. It'd be nice to get them all at once, but nobody's, I don't know. I mean, the other industrial district is basically industrial park, and I don't have any inkling that anybody out there wants to go a lot higher, but I guess it could happen. I mean, you could have somebody in, if we create another industrial district somewhere else, I mean, certainly it's a possibility. But where, that's pretty well built out and nobody has anything that is anywhere near the height limit that we currently have. So right now it doesn't seem like an issue, but it could become one. It certainly can.
Okay, thanks.
At that point, could it be rezoned, or?
Well, no, I mean, we could change the height limitation if we saw a reason to do it, but right now, I don't think there's anybody that's going to go higher, in that zone. But I guess no one's given me any indication that that's a plan.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
Right, so we heard, at the public hearing, there were a lot of comments there. My impression was that I think all but one or two people who spoke out were from the township. I didn't get any feedback outside from the one or two who spoke at the planning meeting from city residents. So I don't have anything that would give me pause in voting against this here. Unless there's any further,
Is 75 a good number? I know that's what was recommended.
Yeah, so Tarek has been in contact with the engineers from AMPI on how high they want to go and making sure that this would suit their needs. And they're very comfortable with it. They've even discussed increased silo capacities, but with the way that those are being built, they're going wider, not necessarily taller than what they currently are. So even if they go to bigger silos, they should still be able to fit with what's in here.
I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation on ordinance number 43, third series.
All right, I have a motion to approve ordinance number 43, third series by Hertzberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Thielen, sorry. Megan, he got you that time.
That's all right.
All right, any further discussion on the ordinance? None? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None? Motion carries. All right, discussion of a resolution in support of the trail completion expansion. Ron, it says you're going to give us a verbal report.
Well, thank you. Obviously, this is for the section of the Glacier Trail from Paynesville to Roscoe that has not been completed yet. The entire Glacier Lakes Trail runs from Wilmer to, I think, St. Joe or the other side of Cold Spring. We passed a resolution very similar to this several weeks ago, but several of our members did go to the Cold Spring or Quarry Board and solicited their support. So when we send this to the DNR, we are going to look like a much stronger unit than just Paynesville within ourselves. And that is the idea, and I think they brought on board Cold Spring, Rockville, Richmond. I believe there was like 5 entities that are going to join in with the support for this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's where it's at.
Well, that answers my question, because I was going to say, we just did this, so what are we doing? Okay, I like it. I'm glad that they're on board, and I'm more than happy to pass an amended resolution bringing them on with us, so. Right, any other discussion on that? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
A motion to approve resolution 2023-18 declaring support for completion of Glacial Lakes Trail.
Right, there's a motion by Thielen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick, approving resolution 2023-18, declaring support for completion of Glacial Lakes Trail. Any further discussion on that? None? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Right, otherwise, we have informational here. Our June lodging tax advisory minutes are attached on page 35. Do you also think Jacob was kind enough? Did he send them to everyone?
I don't know. I wasn't on the board, so I got
Okay.
them, but I don't know if other people did.
Well, if you didn't get them, they were attached informational to our agenda here, so you can see them there. Otherwise, we will see each other again in a couple of weeks.
You reminded me that I
We're
did
adjourned.
not mention it in my council report last time, though.
Oh,
Do you need to keep these?
Jen needs them back.
Okay.
Which reminds me, I have notes on here, because I wrote them on the wrong